we are going to chat a little bit with Mark Stanley. Mark Stanley was at Capitol Hill today. He helped deliver millions of petition signatures to Mitch McConnell's office in favor of net neutrality. It was really cool. He was on the live stream, and I'd love to bring him on to chat about his experience, share his thoughts on net neutrality, on activism, on some of the things that you and I were just talking about, Shannon, about, fighting the fight and consistently applying pressure, because Mark is one of those people who's certainly just spent many, many years finding those cracks in the system and making his voice heard. So Mark, welcome. How are you doing today?
Hey, David, can you hear me?
I can. It's a little bit quiet.
Well, I'm doing well. Pretty tired after running around Capitol Hill today here in Washington, D.C., but I'm doing well. I think we had a good day. We got to deliver millions of petitions, like you said, to Majority Leader McConnell's office, along with some online campaigning that we did. I was just looking at some numbers on a coalition activism site that we launched today, and we've already had about 60,000 people take action just today, calling on Majority Leader McConnell to allow a vote. So, I think it was another good day in the long fight for net neutrality. And I heard you mention that I've been working on this for years and years, and I definitely have. And we've had lots of moments like this along the way. And actually, something Shannon said made me think. I think she referenced an old Mike Gravel ad from the 2008 presidential campaign. That kind of took me back and made me realize we've actually been fighting for net neutrality and organizing for net neutrality even before that, before 2008. So it's been a long time, but we've achieved a lot in that time.
That's awesome. So I was very jealous. It looked like you had a very awesome crew. I guess envious is correct. You had a very awesome crew. A lot of very talented people have been working in the space for a long time. As you guys went to Congress, you have dropped off letters before. You've visited congressional lawmakers' offices before. For people here who maybe saw that or maybe even didn't, can anybody just go and visit their lawmaker's office? Give us some tips about what it's like. Is it a nerve-wracking experience? Does it feel normal? Yeah, are you going through security? Tell us about that whole thing.
Well, you do have to go through security, and
I was surprised how chill it was.
Yeah,
and I know you have way more experience with it than I do, so I'll just add that from someone who doesn't frequent those buildings very often at all. I was surprised it wasn't a little more intense. That was only the second time I ever visited the Senate building in my lifetime, and I expected it to be a little more intense than it was.
Yeah, there's parts of the Capitol where the security is more intense. The Capitol building itself, the security is probably more in line with going through airport security. But no, today we were able to get in security. They do have security guards there, but it's nothing too intense, like Ron said. And I do have to say it's something that I think is commendable about our Congress, is that it is fairly open. So we were able to take a group of I don't know, maybe about 20 or 30. I think we had about 30 folks outside the Senate office building. Maybe about 20 or more came into the building. And we took our boxes with our petition signatures and our comments, and we made our way up to Majority Leader McConnell's office. Once we got there, we stood outside. In the Capitol, members of Congress tend to have a little placard that has their name, usually their state flag. We did ask if we could take some video inside the office, and they said no, which is fairly typical, especially for Majority Leader McConnell. So a few of us went in, we dropped off our boxes, we let them know that we were there, that we wanted to see McConnell, or we wanted McConnell to actually allow a vote on net neutrality legislation. Obviously, he has said that net neutrality is dead on arrival in the Senate. And so, we let them know that there's millions of people that wanted a vote to happen, that wanted to see net neutrality restored. And we were also able to deliver a letter from 100 advocacy and public interest organizations calling on McConnell to allow a vote. So I think today was successful. I think we delivered the message loud and clear that the public interest community, the public, whether it's Democrats, Republicans, or independents, pretty much everybody wants to see a vote on this. And people are watching, and they're looking at McConnell's intransigence on this, and they're noticing.
Let's see. I was watching, obviously, as we were broadcasting the attempt to bring a vote to the Senate floor. And of course, we had some people who are sympathetic to net neutrality stand up. They made a lot of good points, intelligent points about how the majority of Americans support this. It's the foundation for small businesses. Monopoly practices from game theory and economic theory have been proven to be disastrous for freedom as well as for consumers. And then some people who were against net neutrality got up and said, kind of womp, too bad. And nothing happened. And you took these boxes into McConnell's offices and you delivered them to McConnell's office. They didn't want us to film. People were trying to call McConnell. He's not accepting calls right now. He doesn't want to deal with this. Was this a success? Did we do something good? Can we change McConnell's mind? Is this just a big failure and we're wasting people's time? Like, how are we moving forward on this? Is this a good thing we accomplished today? Tell me your thoughts on that. Because again, you've been doing this for quite a long time. You've seen some ups and downs. And tell me how we can feel, should we be feeling good about what's going on today and what we're doing? Is it moving the needle?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, look, I think you all have talked about Chairman Wicker. He's the Republican chair of the Commerce Committee in the Senate. He went to the floor today and he blocked the attempt to bring the Save the Internet Act to a floor vote. We knew that was going to happen today, to be frank. We knew that there's enough Republicans in the Senate right now that oppose net neutrality that one of them was going to go down and block the unanimous consent request. And the unanimous consent request has to be unanimous. It only takes one senator to block it. And so that's what happened today. I don't think today was a failure. We knew what was going to happen, but we drew attention to this issue. And we know that we know McConnell is pretty dug in, right? Like getting McConnell to switch positions on this is going to be an extremely uphill fight. But what we can do by calling out Republican leadership's intransigence and obstinance on this issue is we can show other Republicans that, yes, people still care about this issue. They're still paying attention. They want to vote on this. And I think that's what we did today. So today wasn't just about McConnell. It wasn't just about Wicker. It was about Murkowski, Kennedy, Collins, the other, Gardner in Colorado. I'm talking about the moderate Republicans in the Senate. They're who we need to get next. We need to get them on board. And if we keep doing things like we did today, right, then it's gonna help sway those Republicans. That said, what we did today, I mean, we do need to show McConnell that what he's doing is wrong. What he's doing stands directly in opposition to what Americans want, to what his constituents in Kentucky want. We also dropped off a lot of Kentucky petitions specifically. And so we need to put that, I mean, McConnell might not be changing his mind anytime soon, but we still have to put pressure on him. And we've heard over the years, people tell us, it's not going to make a difference or you can't win. And I think that's one of the net neutrality movement's trademarks is that we've won so many times when people said that we couldn't. One last point I will make though, and this kind of comes from, I think, years of working on these issues. Not every win comes down to whether or not you win a vote in the Senate or in the House that day. By putting pressure on, by going on offense, we're really playing defense on this issue. And so going back to what I said earlier, we've been working on this issue going back before 2008 and even before that. If we hadn't been doing everything that we've been doing for the last year, for the last 5 years, for the last 10 years, net neutrality could have been repealed way before, much sooner, and we could be seeing violations from ISPs at a rate that would just be much higher. What we've done is we've put the ISPs on notice. They are engaging in some really anti-consumer behavior, but I think that'd be much worse. And we've continued to press this forward and made it so that the laws weren't even worse than they are right now. And we've given ourselves a chance to win net neutrality back. So every little bit helps. It really does. And it's not always whether or not you win a vote in the Senate that day. That's not the only victory when it comes to activism on things like net neutrality legislation.
Maybe it sounds a little dorky, but I think we also win hearts and minds. And I don't just say that as lightly, because there was a time I have not been working on this issue as long as you have. There was a time I was, working in the office, in the cubicle life, and surfing Reddit at work and seeing the internet blackout and SOPA and PIPA and net neutrality stuff. and just thinking like, wow, all this stuff is going on. This crazy stuff that's changing the course of history is going on. And like years later, I had an opportunity to work with a group like Fight for the Future. And that's a dream come true to me. You guys helped educate me. You helped me understand what's going on in the political sphere. You got me to get involved and kind of dedicate years of my life to these efforts. And I think there are people out there watching right now who are going to be fighting and doing this for a long time coming. I think that's very, very important. I talked about it in the live stream as well, how a lot of the political opponents, they depend on the idea that we're going to kind of like stop caring, that they can outlast us. And so that's one of the reasons McConnell doesn't answer the phone. It's one of the reasons why they have all these procedures, is to say, well, here's another hoop to jump through. And here's another hoop to jump through. And like, that's okay. One of the things we did today that I think is so important is we didn't just jump through the hoops that they put in front of us. We shined a spotlight on their practice of making people jump through hoops when everybody knows that this is something that 80% of Americans, 76% of Americans, whatever poll you're looking at, an overwhelming number of Americans agree on and demand, whether they're Republicans, Democrats, independents. And we're shining a light on the practice and saying, here's why we don't have it, guys. Do you want this? Everybody wants this. Here's why we can't have this. And so I think we continue to dominate the headlines. We continue to go on the offensive, and we continue to show people how their government is and isn't working for them. And I think that really is the long game that we are going to win. They don't dissuade us. They just give us more opportunities to kind of like show what they're doing and how bad it is for everybody.
Well, I think at the end of the day, I mean, I wasn't expecting us to change Mitch McConnell's mind or those who think like Mitch McConnell. But what I was hoping for, and I think this happened, was that I think McConnell and, you know, his ilk on this issue, the folks that agree with him on this issue and are anti-net neutrality, I think that today they likely saw, oh, wait a second, people are still paying attention to this. We thought they went back to sleep. We were kind of hoping they went back to sleep. We were kind of hoping we might not face consequence for going against net neutrality. Oh no, over 80% of the public, they're still for it. They're still paying attention. And yeah, there's going to be a cost for us if we go against this. So I think that message was delivered. And that's a pretty solid message that they need to hear.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, you know, if you think about what happened today, really, we had 3.5 million people represented in the halls of Congress, literally the halls of Congress. And if those people aren't speaking out, those 3.5 million people, and by the way, that's just a fraction of pro-net neutrality petitions and comments over the years, right? That's what we pulled together. There's been a lot more than that. But if those people aren't speaking out, if public interest advocates aren't showing up, then frankly, we're getting steamrolled, because you know who will be walking those halls is going to be, you know, it's going to be lobbyists for the telecom industry that are paid to do so. And there are a lot of lobbyists for that industry on Capitol Hill. They don't really have much ground to stand on. They certainly don't have any ground to stand on. They don't have public support. So it's like it's absolutely vital. Like Ron said, we got to keep showing up. We got to let them know that people aren't forgetting this issue. I think they're kind of banking on that. There is a ton going on right now. But the good news is too, from what I've seen from like Engagement Demand Progress members, people really aren't. They're not giving up on this issue. I mean, the grassroots, they're still focused on this. I sometimes feel like some of the press has moved on, other people have moved on, but the grassroots they haven't. And it doesn't matter what issue is in the headlines that day. You know, when we ask people to engage and mobilize on net neutrality, they're right there. And that really does give me hope that we're gonna win this. You know, there's lots of different possible ways to do that. We have a court case that's pending. We'll see what happens, you know, in Congress. We'll see what happens with the 2020 presidential election. But the fact that the grassroots remain engaged in the level that they are, it really does make me truly optimistic that this is going to end well for us. And we just got to keep doing things like what we did today to make sure that pressure is known and felt by lawmakers.
Mark Stanley, thank you for everything you've done to make that pressure felt today, to make it felt on other days in the past. And I'm sure you're going to be doing that for a long time to come. Because of guys like you, I'm confident we're going to win this fight. So thank you for everything. Would you like to tell everybody on the Twitch stream, like how they can follow you, how they can find out more about the amazing stuff your organization is doing?
Yeah, we work really closely with Fight for the Future, so we're probably somewhere on your all's Twitter feed, so we appreciate that. But we're at Demand Progress, at Demand Progress on Twitter and demandprogress.org. We really appreciate working with Fight for the Future. As always, we've been, our two organizations, along with other organizations, have been close partners on this, and appreciate everything you all been doing with the live stream today, holding it down with the live stream, while some of us have been running around in DC and doing other stuff. So great work, Dayton, to you and your team, and thanks for everything.